All right. Time to dive into a real classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is by Dale Carnegie,
Oh, yeah. One of the best.
published way back in 1937.
Oh.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sold over 10 million copies. I mean, clearly people are still getting something out of this thing almost a century later.
That's right.
So if you want to follow along, a link to the full book is available in the description or pinned comment.
Yeah, check that out.
But for now, we're going to kind of unpack some of the big ideas and see how these principles can help us all, navigate relationships.
You know, it's funny because Carnegie himself wasn't always like the master influencer we imagine.
Oh, really?
He developed these principles to improve his own life. It was personal for him.
Makes sense. So human.
Yeah.
What's that first big idea he tackles?
Well, he kind of questions this thing most of us take for granted, criticizing others.
Okay.
It's not just ineffective. He says it's often pointless.
Pointless. Really?
He uses some pretty vivid examples, say about criminals like Al Capone or Two Gun Crowley. Did they ever blame themselves for anything? Never. Always pointed the finger at others.
But, I mean, wasn't it just criminals, right?
It wasn't just them. Even successful figures like John Wanamaker, the department store guy, or even President Teddy Roosevelt,
Wow.
they struggled with criticism too.
So is he saying never criticize?
Not exactly, but he's saying understand how pointless it can be. Like, it's human nature to blame, not understand.
So then what are we supposed to do if not criticize?
Well, this is where he introduces that famous principle of his, become genuinely interested in other people.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It sounds simple, right? Maybe too good to be true. But he believes it's the foundation of connection.
It's like that story he tells about the botanist at the dinner party.
Oh, yeah. The host thought he was the most fascinating guest, and he barely said anything.
What was his secret then?
He was just listening, genuinely engaged, asking questions. Powerful reminder that sometimes the best way to win someone over is to just listen.
Yeah, it makes people feel important.
Exactly, like you're valuing them.
Yeah.
And then from there, he outlines 6 ways to make people like you.
Okay, give us the goods. What are they?
They're not magic, but they work. The first one is simple smile.
Smile.
Sounds basic, right? But he talks about the impact of a smile even over the phone.
Can people really hear a smile?
Maybe not literally, but the energy comes through.
Right.
There's this story about a grumpy office worker who transformed just by smiling more.
Interesting.
People responded to the positive energy.
Wow, so simple.
It is. Next one, remember names.
Oh, come on. That's so cliche.
I know it sounds simple, but Carnegie was adamant about this.
Okay.
It shows you value someone. He even details the system Jim Farley used to remember names.
Who's Jim Farley?
He helped manage FDR's presidential campaign.
Oh, wow.
He'd gather all this info about everyone he met, family, business, even their political views.
This commitment.
It was all about remembering their name later to connect with them.
Makes sense when you're running a campaign, I guess.
It's all about showing you care. And then there's be a good listener.
Okay.
More than just hearing words, it's about engagement.
More than just nodding along.
Yeah. He gives this example from the New York Telephone Company. They had this difficult customer always complaining.
Oh, yeah, those are the worst.
But one employee just listened to him patiently.
No arguing.
Nope, just listening. And it calmed the situation down completely.
I guess sometimes people just need to vent.
Exactly.
So instead of manipulation, it's about actually understanding people.
That's it. And there's 3 more principles to go.
Okay, but before we move on, let me just remind everyone that a link to the full book is available in the description or a pinned comment if you want to follow along.
Yeah, great idea.
All right, ready for the next batch?
Hit me with it. Okay, so now we're getting into the art of persuasion, how to win people to your way of thinking.
I like it.
And Carnegie kicks things off by saying, avoid arguments.
Avoid arguments. Come on, everyone loves a good argument.
I know, right? But he says it's rarely productive.
I mean, yeah, heated arguments never get anywhere.
Exactly. Even when you're right, it might not be worth it.
Okay, I'm listening.
He uses this story. He's at a party, and this guy's saying, this phrase is from Shakespeare.
Oh, I bet he knew it wasn't.
He did. But instead of correcting him, he asks, isn't it from Milton?
Ooh, sneaky.
The guy insists it's Shakespeare, and Carnegie just agrees, remembering his own advice to avoid the acute angle.
So smooth. No one's ego gets bruised. The conversation keeps flowing.
Exactly. Sometimes harmony is more important than being right.
Okay, I'm starting to see his point, so what's next?
Never say you're wrong.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It ties back to avoiding arguments. Telling someone they're wrong just makes them defensive.
Nobody likes to be told they're wrong.
Right. There's a story about a lawyer arguing before the Supreme Court.
Wow, high stakes.
And when questioned at the law, he says, I might be mistaken.
He admitted he could be wrong in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah. And the justices actually helped him find the right info.
So he won them over by being humble.
Exactly. It disarmed them completely.
So what do we do instead of saying, you're wrong?
Admit your own mistakes readily.
Really? That seems counterintuitive.
But it builds trust. It shows you're human.
Hmm.
He tells a story this businessman meets with a client to address a mistake his company made.
Oh, boy.
And instead of making excuses, he keeps saying, this is my fault.
Wow, taking full responsibility.
The client was expecting a fight, but this disarmed him totally.
Interesting.
And they worked together to find a solution.
I like it. So it seems like all these principles are working together, right?
They are. It's about understanding human nature to create better interactions.
So in practical terms, where do we even begin when we want to persuade someone?
Begin in a friendly way.
Okay, that seems pretty obvious.
But we often forget. We jump right into the problem.
Yeah, you're right.
Carnegie talks about this labor dispute John D. Rockefeller Jr. resolved.
The oil guy?
Yeah. He started by expressing appreciation for the workers acknowledge their right to organize.
Interesting. So finding common ground right away.
Exactly. That created an environment for a solution.
Brilliant. What else?
This one might sound manipulative, but get the other person saying, yes, yes, immediately.
How do we do that?
Start by asking questions they'll agree with.
To build momentum.
Yeah,
Right.
like leading them down a path.
Okay, I see.
He gives this example. A bank teller wants to get a new customer. He starts by asking, do you want your money to grow safely?
Of course, who would say no to that?
Right. And then he leads him through more questions, getting more yeses.
So by the time he gets to his pitch, the customer is already in that yes mindset.
That's it. It's about creating a positive flow.
So clever. Okay, what's next?
This one I struggle with. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking.
Oh, yeah, that's a hard one.
It's so tempting to dominate the conversation, but it's more effective to listen.
We all need to work on that.
He tells the story. This salesman loses his voice before a big meeting.
Oh, no.
So he's forced to be quiet and just listen to the client. He ends up getting a huge order just by listening.
Wow. The power of silence.
It built trust and showed he cared.
Sometimes the best way to sell something is to shut up. What else?
Let the other person feel the idea is his or hers.
So collaboration, not dictation.
Exactly. People buy into ideas they feel they've created.
Makes sense.
Carnegie gives this example. A sales manager wants his team to buy into a new strategy.
Okay.
Instead of telling them what to do, he asks for their input and ideas.
So they feel ownership.
Right. And they'll be more enthusiastic about implementing it.
Smart. This is great stuff.
It is. And here's a big one. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view.
Empathy.
That's it. It's about understanding their why, even if you disagree. He uses this example. The speaker is trying to figure out why kids are starting fires in a park.
Okay.
Instead of just yelling at them, he talks to them, finds out they're trying to be like pioneers they read about.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
It is. So he gives them designated fire pits and teaches them about fire safety.
Problem solved.
Understanding leads to better solutions.
And it's not just about kids, right?
No. He tells this story about a guy who always criticized his wife's gardening.
Oh, boy. I've been there.
He thought she was wasting time and money.
But he didn't understand why she enjoyed it.
Exactly. So he takes Carnegie's course and starts helping her with the gardening, even compliments her.
I bet that changed things.
It did. Their relationship improved and they both found more joy in it.
Empathy for the win. Okay, what else?
Appeal to the nobler motives.
Sounds kind of lofty.
But it works. Carnegie believes people want to do the right thing.
Okay.
So appeal to their sense of fairness, justice, integrity.
Interesting.
He tells a story about John D. Rockefeller Jr. trying to stop photographers from hounding his kids.
Oof, paparazzi.
Instead of suing them, he appeals to their decency, reminds them they're parents, too.
So classy.
It's about finding that common ground.
I love it. Okay, what else?
Sometimes you got to dramatize your ideas.
And make it memorable.
Yeah, people remember things that are vivid and engaging.
Show, don't tell.
He tells the story about a sales manager who wants to make a point about wasted money.
Okay.
So he throws a handful of pennies on the floor.
What?
The sound startled everyone and made his message hit home.
Uh-huh. That's a good one. All right, last one.
Throw down a challenge.
Ooh, I like that.
People are driven by the desire to prove themselves.
It's like that competitive spirit.
Yeah. He tells the story of Charles Schwab motivating some mill workers.
The steel guy.
Yeah, they were falling behind on production.
So what did he do?
He chalked a big 6 on the floor, representing their output from the previous day.
So they would try to beat it?
Exactly. It worked. They worked harder every day to improve.
That's so cool.
It gave them a tangible goal to work towards.
I love these stories. So this whole section is about understanding what motivates people, right?
It is. And using that knowledge to influence them ethically, of course.
It's not about manipulation. It's about creating win-win situations. Okay, well, before we jump into the last set of principles about leadership, let me remind everyone that a link to the full book is available in the description or pinned comment.
Great idea. Those leadership principles are really insightful.
Okay, so we're on to the final section of Carnegie's book, Becoming a Leader.
Yeah.
Super excited for this one.
It's a good one. You know, we've talked about connection, understanding persuasion.
Right.
All that leads to leadership. Carnegie says true leadership isn't about bossing people around.
That was interesting.
It's about inspiring and empowering them.
Okay, so how do we become that kind of leader?
He starts with this: begin with praise and honest appreciation.
Oh, I like that.
It's about focusing on strengths and acknowledging accomplishments, even small ones.
Like that Charles Schwab story with the mill workers and the number 6 on the floor.
Exactly.
Ah.
Highlighting what they had achieved, not criticizing.
Catch them doing something right.
Yes. And then there's this call attention to people's mistakes indirectly.
Okay, so not embarrassing them?
Right. Nobody likes to be shamed. He tells this story about a music teacher who wanted her student to trim her nails.
Oh, I've been there.
Instead of saying it directly, she compliments the girl's beautiful hands.
Oh, sneaky.
And then suggests that shorter nails would make playing the piano easier.
So she planted the seed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The student wanted nice nails and to play better, so she trimmed them.
That's brilliant. Okay, what else?
This one's important. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing others.
Lead by example.
Yeah, it shows vulnerability creates an environment where people feel safe admitting their own mistakes.
I like that.
Carnegie uses this example of Kaiser Wilhelm II. He made these foolish public statements, almost caused a crisis.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he known for saying the wrong thing?
All the time. And when his advisors tried to get him to take responsibility, he wanted to blame everyone else.
Oh,
But one of his advisors, Prince von Bülow, was really smart.
okay.
He saved the situation by first admitting his own shortcomings and then praising the Kaiser's judgment.
A little flattery goes a long way.
It does. He got the Kaiser to take responsibility and defuse the whole thing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay, next one, ask questions instead of giving direct orders.
Oh, that's good.
People are more cooperative when they feel part of the decision.
It's that collaboration thing again?
Exactly. He uses the example of O&D Young, this powerful executive. He rarely gave orders. He'd ask questions and make suggestions.
So his team felt empowered?
Exactly. They were more creative and took initiative.
That's a great leadership style. Okay, what else?
Let the other person save face.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that, avoiding embarrassment.
It goes beyond that. It's about actively creating opportunities for people to keep their dignity.
Especially in tough situations.
Right. Like when that accounting firm had to let go of their seasonal employees.
Yeah.
Instead of just firing them, they met with each person, praised their work, and expressed confidence in their future.
So they still felt valued.
Exactly. Everyone needs to feel appreciated even when things end.
That's so important. Okay, what's next?
Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement.
Yes. Celebrate the small wins.
Exactly. It encourages growth. Carnegie tells this story about a young Charles Dickens.
Oh, wow.
He was struggling to get his writing published, and then one editor praised his work.
That must have meant the world to him.
It did. It gave him the confidence to keep going and become the famous author we know today.
The power of encouragement. Okay, what else?
Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to.
High expectations.
Yeah. People often rise to meet them.
I believe that.
There's this story about a dentist who complimented his charwoman on her cleaning.
Okay.
The next day, she went above and beyond, polishing everything perfectly.
She had a reputation to uphold.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Use encouragement, make the fault seem easy to correct.
So they don't feel discouraged.
Right. People are more likely to improve if they think they can succeed.
Growth mindset.
Exactly. Carnegie tells this funny story about Lowell Thomas convincing him to play bridge even though he was a beginner.
Was he good at bridge?
Not at all. But Thomas made it seem easy and told Carnegie he had a natural talent.
So he boosted his confidence.
And Carnegie ended up enjoying it and learning quickly.
Sometimes we just need a little push.
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest.
So framing it in a positive light.
Exactly. Make it appealing, not a burden.
Okay.
Like when Woodrow Wilson offered a cabinet position as if it was a favor to him.
Oh, wow.
It made the recipient feel valued.
That's smart. So it's all about inspiring and empowering people.
That's it. Creating a positive environment where everyone can thrive.
This has been such a fascinating look at Carnegie's principles. It's amazing how relevant they still are.
I know, it's almost 100 years later and they still hold up.
It's about human nature, and that never changes.
Exactly.
If you want to dive deeper into all of this, you can find a link to the full book in the description or pinned comment.
Yeah, check it out.
And as we wrap up, I want everyone to think about which principle resonated most with you.
Yeah, and how can you start applying it in your own life?
Even small changes can make a big difference.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into how to win friends and influence people.
It's been a pleasure.